The U.S. Agency for International Development has been completely gutted and is basically at the point of death. This is completely unconstitutional. I mean, this needs to be like said right off the bat. This is the first thing we need to say, is that the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, was created by Congress. And right off the bat, the first thing that needs to be said, and the most important point that I need to get across, if I get across anything to any of you guys, is that it is unconstitutional for the President of the United States to allow somebody unelected to go in and destroy the funding and then gut the institutions that were created and allocated funding by Congress, because Congress retains the power of the purse. This is Article 1 of the Constitution, okay? So if you guys are, I know a few of you guys are studying at home and you have your constitutions ready with your highlighters and your pens. So if you want to know a section of the Constitution to review for today's stream to see whether if what I'm saying is true, your reading homework is 1. Article 1. Okay, good. Now that we got that out of the way, before the gutting that Elon Musk just did with Doge, again, an unelected bureaucrat, richest man on the planet, going in to USAID and gutting the institution. It had 10,000 employees before that was helping to administer like HIV medication, like 20 million people, including 500,000 children, was helping to feed people around the world, was helping with programs with aid and development on basically every continent in the globe, which was not only, you know, helping on a humanitarian level, but was also, if you want to talk about this from a, you know, geostrategic angle, and part of the reason it was originally created by JFK, John F. Kennedy in the first place, on a soft power angle. Being like, hey, the United States is present in this area. We're working to solve issues like disease, which, by the way, stopping the spreading of disease in regions around the world where there's not enough like healthcare or medical development for these countries to deal with these on their own without assistance. This assists us because we don't want these diseases to spread. We don't want the economic damage of that to spread. That could hurt markets, which hurts us. It's also a humanitarian crisis, which I think on a human level we should be against. But we're going in and we're gutting this. And for all these reasons, by the way, is why Congress has allocated money. And this is why the destruction of an institution like this should be debated by Congress. Even if you're like, look, Dylan, I don't care about all these like HIV kids, okay? Not, or even if you do care, I believe that you believe that private charities can do it, or that the Chinese can do it, or that, you know, the HIV kids should pull up their bootstraps and go, you know, to the sand farm, you know, dive down in there and, you know, get the HIV medicine themselves. Whatever your belief is, for what should be done here, either because of USAID's history in the Cold War or otherwise, it is not the chief executive's job to just completely destroy the funding avenues for these institutions that were created by Congress. It is Congress's job to manage that and to allocate the funds. It is not the chief executive's job to do that. He doesn't have the power to do that. And certainly an unelected oligarch does not have the power to go in there and do it on his own either. What is going on with the U.S. Agency for International Development could also be done to the U.S. Department of Education. It could be done to the U.S. Consumer Protection Bureau. It could be done to any number of agencies due to Elon Musk's access to the Treasury system, which helps allocate funds to these areas. And again, before these cuts, there were 10,000 employees administering all this medical aid and humanitarian aid. There are now 290 employees. There were 10,000 people working around the globe before Doge started this about a week and a half ago. There are now 290 people left. The picture we're looking at the screen is workers taking down the letters on the building of the U.S. Agency for International Development, and they're locking it up. People can no longer access the offices. Both not only employees are not able to access the offices, but also members of Congress. Both senators and House members who have tried to access it have been blocked out. And this is not only happening now at the U.S. Agency for International Development. We're also seeing similar blocking of access to Congress members, to the Department of Education, and I believe it wouldn't be too surprising in the near future to also see this with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, because if you go to Elon Musk on Twitter right now and you look at the stuff he's saying, he's posting about it as like, let's get rid of it. Like, look at this. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, RIP. Now, again, he doesn't have the power to do this. This is the richest man on the planet coming in saying, I am unconstitutionally, as somebody who came over, wasn't born in the United States, came over from South Africa, and came here and made all of my wealth in your country built on these institutions.
Hippopotamus has donated $10.
Thank you so much for the $10. Built on these institutions, I am now going to completely disregard them while claiming patriotism, flag waving and such, while disrespecting the very institutions that the Founding Fathers put in place. Article 1. Article 1. I mean, number 1 on the list is pretty important, right? I mean, if you think America's cool and you immigrated over here because you wanted to be here instead of in South Africa, which he thinks is awful now, don't you think that like the founding document, which, you know, all of this freedom is supposed to be based upon and built upon, like the central pillar of the United States? I mean, what are we without our laws and our freedom and the structures? We're just a bunch of greedy cowboys that'll kill each other for a dime, right? This is what allows us to structure our efforts towards building a future for ourselves that is free and prosperous. Without these documents, there is really no America as we know it. And so for this guy to just come in here, buy out an election, go in there, openly claim to be like the George Soros of the right, disregard the Constitution while waving the stars and stripes, not only is this unconstitutional, this is very un-American. And I really have to question if he really, and you know what? It's not a question. I don't really think he cares about the Constitution or the institutions. I think he cares about him being able to go in there and direct this transformation, whether he knows what he's doing and doesn't know what he's doing. Restructuring the government is not restructuring a company. The government is meant to help people. It's not just meant to turn a profit. The purpose of the government in paving roads and building bridges and having firefighting teams is to help people.
I recently went through the hassle of getting a passport as well, so I feel your pain. On a separate note, I can't tell if the current U.S. passport is black or dark navy blue.
I would say dark navy blue. So my ultimate point is this. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, just as an example, I think is one of the better institutions we have in the United States. In fact, it also polls remarkably popular with Americans. Do you want to know why the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau polls popular with Americans? Because this institution has helped return tens of billions of dollars to American consumers. Who's American consumers? Well, American consumers are you. People who go to stores, people who buy things, the man versus the company. You're the person who walks into Walmart. You represent the shopper in Walmart, not the company. That's their job, is to go there and protect you. Let's say you tell a company, I want to buy your service, or no, let's make a better example. A company comes to you and says, hey, we're going to enact this new safety protocol. Give us $20 and we'll make your account more secure, even more safe. And you're like, sure. And then you find out a few years later, that was actually all bullshit. Then the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau will come to you, say, hey, there was no actual safety precaution put in place. That was all bullshit. That was all nonsense. Here's your money back. Or you can do this with any number of defunct items, or if you get scammed in some way through snake oil, or you're taken advantage of, or there's improper advertising or lying about what a product does or doesn't do, or certain safety precautions, or certain regulatory laws were not taken into practice, which hurts consumers. Their job is to go in there and compensate consumers for when companies screw them over. And so you can find a lot of, and because of this kind of narrow purview of action, and it's being completely in the side of everybody that isn't Mr. Walmart. When I'm looking at people like reacting to this, I see some people like, yay, big government slashing, but I'm also seeing a lot more people who are more, you know, against it, even within the conservative ranks, because it polls popular. People have experiences of being rewarded, being given money and compensation by the Bureau due to them being scammed. Many of them have interacted with the Bureau before and have been benefited by them when they see bad business practices, and they go to them and talk to them, and then they'll help them out and get them their money. And maybe it doesn't work in every instance, but there's a lot of positive examples of this. And I know a lot of stories from a lot of people that have been helped by them. And let me just give you one example. This was shared by a few people, including Brian Tyler Cohen and others, of one of the Trumpers, one of the MAGA guys, one of Elon Musk's ilk, in the reply, seeing Elon Musk unilaterally, unconstitutionally declare the death of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And he says in the replies, "What is the deal with the CFPB? I'm genuinely curious, Elon Musk. As a normal guy, can you please respond and tell me? I assumed it was created for our protection. I've used the CFPB after my bank was giving me the runaround, and I had a bunch of fraud charges that they wouldn't refund me after telling me they found them as fraudulent. Within a week, I had my money back. So explain to me how this doesn't benefit us as American citizens." This one really baffles me, and I'd love an actual explanation. Now, can anybody at home ponder and consider and come to a conclusion as to why the richest man on the planet and one of the richest men in human history would possibly be against an institution whose main job is to fight in the interest and get compensation for the consumer, those who consume from institutions of wealth, stores, and other institutions that you go to consume? It's not difficult for me to figure out why. I don't think it's difficult for any of you guys either. And whether or not it's a completely greedy, self-interested Elon Musk, like, I'm going in there and I'm going to gut this institution because I'm rich and I want to be richer, and I'm sick of these institutions holding me in check, and I want to be able to screw over the consumer, and I don't care if my Tesla truck blows up and kills a kid. It's, or it's a more, I'm an ideologue and I believe that we should gut all these institutions because if we just gut more and more government, it's always good. Either way, due to the work that institutions like this, USAID, or any of these that are created by Congress, therefore constitutionally giving the power of the purse to Congress, meaning they decide where the funding goes. They're the ones that have to go out there and vote on funding and locate spending bills and choose this goes there and this goes there. That's a long, drawn-out negotiating hardball process, because that's how it's done. And to just go in there after the fact and say, I'm the wealthiest man on the planet, I don't give a fuck. Fuck Congress. I'm just going to go around it and say this doesn't exist anymore. This doesn't exist anymore. I don't care what the American people voted for. They voted for representatives who then passed these spending bills. I'm Elon Musk. I'm wealthy. I can cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I can cut USAID. I can cut the U.S. Department of Education. I can cut whatever I want. I don't care if Congress did. That is un-American, and it also avoids any debate about whether these institutions should exist in the first place. A lot of people have talked about, I know Ezra Klein and others, this like high velocity, this idea that Trump's doing as much as possible, as quick as possible. And the reason behind that is that if you do so much at the same time, that very valuable thing in democracy, focus, it's kind of hard to like center it in on any one thing. I mean, hell, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, maybe, NPR could have a headline talking about it in a few days if there wasn't also the mass deportations, if there wasn't also a Riviera and Gaza conquering, and the conquering of Canada and Panama and Greenland, and then we got USAID over there, the U.S. Department of Education gutting. We've got the Doge nonsense. We've got the Doge firings of racists, the rehiring of racists. We've got any number of complete like hogwash, bargain bin political scandals or political nonsense. But because there's so much going on, it's hard to focus in any one direction. And so you're just kind of overwhelming the system. You're overwhelming the system. You're overwhelming the attention economy. And it's harder for anyone to concentrate resistance, to concentrate focus in pushing back in any one area. And that doesn't mean that it won't eventually build like opposition ever. It just means maybe it could delay it to some capacity. And that's bad Because the reason you would want that type of resistance is so the country could have a debate on whether these institutions could exist, because the country voted for representatives who made these institutions. To just destroy these institutions without consulting Congress is to say that you don't care what the voters voted for. And the whole mandate that they're saying that, hey, look, we can do whatever we want, is the voters voted for Donald Trump last election. And it was a huge wave. It wasn't. It was actually historically still immensely close. It was a difference of 1.5%. Trump got less than 50% of the vote, meaning the majority of Americans did not vote for Donald Trump. Okay, you want to see a landslide? Reagan, LBJ. Those are landslides. And to use a bare margins victory in a general environment against incumbency, where people wanted you to go lower grocery prices, to say, let's get rid of the U.S. Department of Education without consulting Congress, it's un-American, it's unconstitutional, and it's really, really, really bad for the precedent that it could set on what these types of unelected oligarchs can do to influence our country's politics without consulting the American public. And to use this election mandate to say you don't need to listen to the American people's votes when they vote for representatives who do this, it kind of spits in the whole face of why we have elections in the first place. It spits in the face of the mandate that you're claiming. The already flimsy mandate, but that flimsy mandate, you're spitting in the face of it. And that's where we eventually get to our space, right here on Twitch. See, Asmongold, who is a World of Warcraft streamer, he decided he wanted to commentate on politics a little bit again. And he's been commentating on politics a bit. And whether it's saying, like, oh, I don't really care if, you know, the Palestinians get the worst of the worst done to them imaginable. Like, that's not right. I mean, come on. That was bad. He admitted it was bad. So maybe he, like, swam off like a shark, kind of, and like, hanged in the raft, and he's coming back to politics. Or maybe he talked all in this time and I just wasn't paying attention. And I just see when he says the dumb stuff, which, I mean, that's how we all exist for a lot of... That's not how we all exist in each other's mind, but that's how a lot of us exist in each other's mind. We just see them when they do the dumb shit. And for Asmon, that seems to be the case for me. And he is talking about USAID here, and how he has been wronged by the journalists. And he kind of takes this moment to almost like take that kind of like, yes. I mean, come on. I want these people to suffer what they did to me. Well, what these woke journalists did to me, Asmongold. What goes around comes around. Listen to what he has to say. And listen to what he says about USAID.
Right here, and I'll show you. Like, people think I'm fucking crazy. I'm not. Look at this. People wonder our tax dollars used to promote wokeness in video games. Answer is yes. USAID paid Politico millions of dollars a year to write pieces like this one, which promotes diversity and describes Gamergate as disinformation and harassment campaign. So this is the thing, guys. I want these people to suffer because that's what they did to me. I want to set an example. Get rid of these people. Put them like completely out of their jobs. Get rid of them. Make an example of them. Say, listen, this is what happens. Gamers rise up. What goes around? Yep, what goes around comes around. And we're coming.
See, Asmongold is a walking, talking... Well, I don't really see him walking much. He is a sitting, streaming example of somebody who needs to get a Politico subscription, okay? For a few things, okay? For a few reasons, he needs to get a Politico subscription. Okay, first things first, right? Okay? So he's attacking these woke journalists, these terrible journalists, and he's... You know, what's he doing to show his sources? He's using Twitter.com. Now, look, I'm not saying you can't use Twitter as a source ever, or you can't use it to be like, oh, the video is just here, it's quickly and easily accessible. But, you know, he's not trusting these woke journalists to get some information. He's getting from Anna Seldian, you know, which I assume they did some reporting in Vietnam of some sort. No, actually, I think they paratrooped in with U.S. troops in Grenada. But that's his source for all of this money being spent, millions of dollars of U.S. aid money being spent on Politico so they could write articles about like black lesbians. That's the image he's painted. That we pay our tax dollars, the government takes our tax dollars, we give it to USAID, which then gives millions of dollars to Politico so they could write articles about why, like, fucking, I don't know, like, toasters are transphobic, right? Whatever it is. Some quote-unquote woke nonsense. Okay, well, first off, this is just complete nonsense. It's just a lie. The USAID and the American government did not spend millions of dollars on Politico in order for them to write like woke stories or really to write stories at all. Actually, the majority of the government spending on Politico, because there was 8.2 million spent by government agencies on Politico. I believe that was last year, but that was on Politico Pro. Now, Politico Pro is a subscription service that tracks legislation. So if you're in the US government, could any of you guess as to why, if your job is to work in the government, why you would want to track legislation that could say affect how you do your job at the government, because it could change the regulations, it could change what types of laws you need to enforce, it could change the tax rates that are necessary for whatever. So the money that's being talked about, this millions of dollars that was spent on, I guess, you know, black, transgender, otherkin, whatever, was actually just spent on legislation tracking services. Now that's boring. What I just said is boring. Legislation tracking services? Oh, guys, you want to go study the UI of Politico Pro? No, this is boring, boring, boring. Which is why this isn't what was said by his Twitter source. Because this is boring, it wouldn't get clicks, it wouldn't make them money, or it wouldn't get them attention. And so this person was able to get in front of Asmongold's eyes by being eye-catching, by being like, oh my God, that's bogus. The idea that the government could spend millions of dollars just so they could, these writers could just write their silly little opinion pieces when we have other issues to do. That's not what happened. And if it was just a tracking services story that got out there, then this wouldn't be a story. Asmongold would have nothing to whine about on the show. And then he wouldn't be able to go out there and play woke victim by the journalists, you know, woe is me, etc., etc. So I think he needs maybe a little bit more establishment media, because guess what? I don't know if I would trust every single reporter at Politico to always and never get any of their journalistic ethics mixed up or get something wrong, but I would trust anyone on their staff more than I would Anna Seldian when trying to report on government spending habits, okay? Asmongold, that's the first thing. That's the first thing I have to say here. The second thing is, when it comes to USAID, what he's doing right now is, again, high velocity, a ton of things being thrown at the window, a ton of things being thrown at the wall. The whole purpose of this is to do so much so quick that it's kind of hard to move in and stop them. And all that's really stopping Trump right now from moving forward is the courts that are delaying him and undercutting him and saying, hey, wait. This doesn't really look completely legal. Him, for example, signing his executive order revoking birthright citizenship, that was stopped by a Reagan-era judge. A judge appointed by Ronald Reagan, because it was obviously unconstitutional, and you should read his opinion because he lambasts the proposal, the executive order, for its unconstitutionality. So, but the purpose isn't like, okay, this is 100% constitutional, we're going to write it. The purpose is just so much, so quick at the same time that focus, which is so valuable in a democracy, can't concentrate on any of these single areas. And so when he just kind of like drive by says, oh, millions wasted at USAID on Political magazine subscriptions, and he says this in front of, what, I don't know, 20 to 30,000 people that are watching live. If this is posted in any YouTube video, then I would imagine possibly hundreds of thousands of more. And by the way, I'm shooting on the low end, 10 to 20, 30,000 live. Asmongold is a big WoW streamer. He's a big React streamer. He gets big viewership. Big viewership. And so, taking that into consideration, him just like drive-buying USAID in this way when it's being gutted unconstitutionally. And so instead of Asmongold being on his stream complaining about like, hey, you know, I think our vote matters, and whether or not you know, the Congress has the power of the purse matters for us holding them accountable, and Congress holding the chief executive accountable, and the, you know, the three systems of government and the checks and balances we have. It's integral for the system. Instead of that being the scandal is what the anime profile picture on Twitter, this person has to say. This is the source. I don't want that unreliable mainstream woke news. I need my anime girls in Trump hats, and these very young, very, very young, by the way. Too young. If they're going to be toppling these institutions unconstitutionally, these are not the areas where we need like Twitch streamers like drive-bying these topics. I mean, it's not that, like, I don't know. We need to, one second. I got something for Asmongold. I have something that can help him out. Don't worry, boys. I got something. I got a cure to help Asmongold out. We can start him simple, so that next time someone comes up and guts the Constitution and he's whining about woke journalists, he could say, hey, I'm an American. I should probably care about the Constitution being gutted. Here's the place he can start.
Woo, you sure gotta climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building here in Washington. Well, I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee, but I know I'll be a law someday, at least I hope and pray.
Wait, 1 second. Let me, wait. One. And he's in committee. Passing the law. This isn't right. There was no South African billionaire to say whether or not he goes into effect or not. Obviously, this is fake. Sorry, Asmon. I'll get you a better resource. This is the level of political commentary on Twitch. Okay, so if you're like, oh, it's my comment, man. If I ever feel bad about like a mistake I make, I should be a lot easier on myself, honestly.